Hey guys, this is Woodscump here, and this video is really weird because it's not like the others I've done in the past. This is going to be more or less a vent video, or rather a discussion about why I have bad anxiety. To elaborate and clarify what I mean, it means anxiety that whenever I feel like I've done something wrong or it's overwhelming for my brain, it like gut punches me. It like absolutely deters my mind. Like I can't focus, I can't think, I can't do anything properly without being bugged by a simple thought. And as a human being, what what makes me really weird from others is the fact that I feel before I think, if that makes any sense. So I feel before I think, and it's a really weird psychological thing because not many people tend to do that. They tend to think about something and then they develop these consciousness feelings about how they perceive a certain bias. And that's what happened with me yesterday in a server I was in. I basically posted out that the new Halo Infinite game mode was fun, Husky Assault, as I made a video about that yesterday. If you want to, you can check it out. And basically, this turned into a really stressful, hot flame war conversation with a bunch of others because someone replied with, great game modes, but quote unquote shitty company. And I want to make this clear. I don't really defend Halo Studios nor Bungie as a Halo fan. I don't typically pick sides because it's a double-edged sword. If you side with something, that means everybody's against you because no matter what you say or do, it doesn't validate your opinion or anything, because apparently in today's modern age, with the internet, people are really rambunctious. They're really tribalism is the best way to describe it. Like, oh, if you're not with me, you're against me. And I really think that anytime I get into a conversation like this over a particular subject that I'm really fond of, let's say Halo, like modern Halo or whatever, it really gets under my skin sometimes because I don't know. I think few people in this world just really genuinely hate this franchise for no reason, and the company and Microsoft, and that's really valid. But what really bothers me is the amount of anxiety I have, and that's the bad anxiety, as I like to call it. The bad anxiety that, starts out really small, and then as more talking gets involved, it really grows into a bigger and bigger snowball effect. So essentially, what it turns out to be is just like a overwhelming sea of information that really just takes my brain over. It holds it hostage. It really, these like chemicals in your brain, I'm not sure what they're called. These chemicals in your brain, they just make you feel like you're really anxious, you're really stressed. And whenever I'm in that mood, oh boy, it really like descends into utter madness and insanity and just plain like depression. And that's one thing I've been just fighting for like over a decade, since like the age of 13. It's like I have this really bad anxiety that I try to fight with medicine. it's worked on and off, you know. Medicine is exactly the same relief as like religion, you know, with praying. But I think the point is, whenever I get into passionate talking about something or like a certain topic or a hobby of mine, and something so negative as small as an ant comes across, it just really boggles my mind and it just bothers me and it just really affects my health mentally, you know. And there are a few ways I can try to avoid that or cope, you know, just ignore it. Just ignore it, what's gum, as they say. Just don't even look at the screen. Just go on. But there's a sense of obligation to read what somebody writes or listen to what they say because it's fair on both sides that you listen to two angles of the same coin. And I really don't like that because I don't want to get involved in anything. I don't want to get into trouble. I don't want to get into, you know, like flame wars. It's really dumb. It's really goofy. It's really stupid. So the thing I try to do most days is I try to take a neutral stance because I honestly don't find it beneficial if you're on the good side or you're on the bad side. Like the world is entirely morally gray, you know. Companies are doing a lot of exploitive and things to their employees, a lot of anti-consumer things. Communities have a lot of bad things to say. The companies have a lot of good things to say. Honestly, at the end of the day, it just really boggles down to staying in your own lane. And I think that's what I really should have just done is just stay in my own lane and just not even bother responding or, you know, saying something is like, oh, I love the new Halo Infinite mode. Because as soon as that name gets brought up, like, everybody just demolishes it, you know, with negativity and pessimism. And it's just tiring, you know, it's really tiring. I honestly find it hard to believe as a fan that you can go to a environmental safe space and talk about the game in a quote unquote community without hearing any backlash or, you know, the same old typical bullshit that people like to spat on the internet. So after this, I really felt just sweating bullets. I was really anxious. I had bad anxiety again, and I really couldn't think straight, you know? It's really weird how the human brain works. Like, we use it to our day to day things, but when one little chemical sparks in your brain, it just completely takes over, you know, if it's left unchecked for long. So, after that, I do like the most weirdest and most maddest actions, words I can ever do as a human being. I will like go on servers and I would say like, "Hey guys, you know, I think I really should something that YouTube would improve." And this in return would get replies of people just like genuinely caring about me or I don't know, like whatever support they try to do involve. I don't really look at it because I just I just don't want to, you know. I just don't want to look at the replies, you know. And honestly, it kind of really bugs me that I do that because I know these people are out there, they carrying me. We're strangers on the internet, but that doesn't mean we have to treat each other like shit, you know. So, because I said that, I just get into the mindset of, oh, I must be a shitty person then if I play a shitty game made by a shitty company, you know, because if I'm playing Halo and I love modern Halo, then that means everybody hates me, right? like like here's my stance and I want to make this clear, you know. I don't think Bungie nor Halo Studios are flawless companies. Every company has made a mistake in the past. It doesn't matter what good deeds they do. It doesn't matter what good benefits they do to the community. There's always going to be some bad history because again, The world is morally gray, and that's why I want to emphasize in this video with my anxiety to calm down, like how to cope with it, like how to deter the bad thoughts away, just tell them straight out, like, these thoughts are wrong, they shouldn't exist. Companies in this world, they are morally gray. A lot of them may do bad things than the others. A lot of them may do a lot of good things than the others. Like, people, for instance, look at Valve. Like, Valve is one of those companies that people have praised over the 10 years when it started, but then the loot box or the loot crates in CSGO controversy came, or like the Dota 2 artist unfair dealings came. People really did a 180 turn and just hated on Valve, but somehow still compliment them for doing good things, for Steam. Same thing with Nintendo. People love Nintendo, but in their games, but recently there's a lot of resentment going on with the Switch 2 and like anti-consumerism practices and all that, yada yada. Microsoft's a business company. They've done a lot of shady stuff in the past. People really don't like Microsoft, both technical and social aspects, with like Xbox and Phil Spencer. That also brings me another thing. I want to say, as an Xbox user, I don't think Phil Spencer is the greatest video game figure in history. Sure, he's like done a lot of accessible and like candy free given things out of the community, like backwards compatible games on multi platforms, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's a good guy, because he's done a lot of mistakes. And same thing with those other key figures in Xbox. Same thing with Sony or PlayStation. They used to make a lot of good games and a lot of good practices, but Sony being Sony and PlayStation just being a goofball and just like making mistakes with like the PS3's launch, or reporting the same game like over and over on like remastered graphics. It's just honestly like can you see the image here? Can you see why it's really important to discern why no company is better than the other, quote unquote? Like, sure, everybody hates Halo Studios for their, I suppose, right reasons, quote unquote, but I honestly don't live day to day with like this genuinely hateful mindset, this hatred towards a certain people because they did something wrong, or with the community. It's none of my business. I play games to play games. I play games to relax, to get away with life, to have fun with friends. I'm not really a game developer myself, so I really don't understand the big picture and everything, but I do try to pray and wish the devs and anybody who's affected by like these exploitatives that they get better. I mean, honestly, that's the best thing you can do as a human being, is just pray, and just keep those people in mind. Make sure you wish them luck. There's not much anything else you can do as a human being outside of your area of expertise, because believe me, if we had that power to completely change what's going on 20 years ago, I bet you things would have been a lot better now. But guess what? It's life. That's all we can do, is just wait and see, pray for them, wish them well, speak up if we have to. But anyway, getting back to the video, my anxiety is bad. I don't think anybody else but me has this anxiety that like eats you up from the inside, because it really is a weird feeling, and it's like a curse. And I feel like every time I try to say something positive or really upbeat about modern Halo or anything I love, particularly in life, like Xbox or movies or like songs, like bands, it just comes down to facing people who really don't give a crap and they just say mean things, and it just really gives me a lot of anxiety, and I just don't know how to cope with that. So I don't know. I feel like this video has gone on long enough and I just needed to make it and release it so I can get my thoughts off my chest, because I mean, I've done this before, like on Tumblr. I've made a lot of Tumblr posts just ranting or venting about like my thoughts on the Halo community and everything. And I generally don't hate anybody or like wish them death or anything. I just am frustrated. I am definitely frustrated with my anxiety. I am frustrated with sometimes the world and what's going on in the video game industry, just anything I love, particularly gaming franchises I love. I just wish for the best, I would usually make commentaries like this to describe what I'm going through, but if I don't get this out later, then it's gonna bother me like all day, and I feel like with the way I edit videos and the way I get them out to you guys, and I'm just like, man, what do I do? Like, what do I say? Do I write a scripted sequence or do I just go off the top of my head? And honestly, I think the latter is better because I don't really need to fake anything I have in mind, I don't need to fake my feelings or fake my personality. I just try to be myself, So, I think the video is about to end here soon long enough. I apologize if it went over like 10 minutes at this point, just me talking about why this matter of occurrence is just like bothering me and it's everywhere. Honestly, I think I honestly think that I should stay within my own lane, I should stick with my friends who generally enjoy the games as I do. There's no discourse, I don't think there's big enough discourse online as video games because people really care about video games, and I understand why, but, sometimes it can just be overwhelming, it could be mass hysteria, and for all I know, I mean, the best thing we can do is just take care of each other and just say sorry and just move on with our lives, But unfortunately, we have people in this world that don't see eye to eye on many things, and there's a lot of them in every sort of fan base. So, yeah, with that in mind, I hope this video explains what's going on and what I need, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.